Hey guys, hope everyone is doing well in this challenging time. I just wanted to make a video about anxiety and the ways we're coping with the COVID-19 crisis. I've been getting a few messages from parents specifically, and people are experiencing a lot of challenges right now in their relationship and with their kids in particular. And of course, it makes sense right now because don't forget it, what we're being asked to do right now is too much. Many of us are still working remotely and also simultaneously parenting and taking care of household chores, and also many are helping their kids with online remote studies and things like that. And basically, this is doing three jobs at once. It's being a parent, it's being a teacher, and also actually having a job. And this is hard. Some, or not some, but millions of people have lost their jobs, and many people are struggling financially. So depending on which situation in life you are, obviously it's different, but it's so normal to feel anxious and to be uncertain about what the future holds. And what I wanted to share is a few techniques that will help you calm your anxiety. You might have a reasonable question. Why do I even need to deal with my own anxiety? And maybe I'm not even feeling it. And some people are not, for sure. But often enough in our society, we're used to not noticing the feelings we're feeling. And it actually creates a lot of problems in our relationship with our partners, with our kids, because sometimes we can really get immersed into this feeling and we don't even know we're feeling it right now. But our reactions in our relationship, our responses are coming from out of that place. So we're getting triggered easier, right? For example, someone's action, like our toddler's meltdown, is much more likely to get a stronger response from us, for example, than if we were peaceful, if we were feeling calm versus anxious. A common trigger in a relationship, for example, is being unheard. Because growing up, most of us in the Western society experienced our parents, even though well-intentioned, but saying things like, you get what you get, but you don't get upset, or there is no crying allowed in this house, and things like that, right? Which as children, we end up just learning that we're not our feelings and parts of ourselves are not welcome and embraced, and we're not welcome the way we are. So not being heard by someone, even as a grown-up, is a common trigger for us to just feel defensive, to experience much stronger response, especially as you're feeling anxious. So the first practice I'm going to share here is coming from Cheryl Paul's book, The Wisdom of Anxiety, which I really highly recommend, especially if you tend to be more on an anxious side of life. That practice is noticing your feeling, seeing it, sitting with it for a little bit. And instead of trying to move away from it and suppressing it, vice versa, inhaling your anxiety and exhaling peace or gratitude or whatever it is that you're looking for in this moment. If you have a little bit more time, you can also do a practice that is similar to meditation, but it's a little different because it's a little easier to do even if you have like noise and things like that around you, and especially with little children at home. It's harder to find a quiet space for many of us right now. But basically what you do is, if you can, you close your eyes and you sort of sink within yourself. You just go deeper and deeper within, and you go with the flow, and you just focus on yourself, the feelings that you're experiencing in your body, any sensations in your body, and the feelings that you're experiencing within as well. The third technique is backed up by neuroscience, and it's based on the premises that our brain is not really capable of focusing on more than two things at once. So yeah, by the way, multitasking is really a myth. So basically what you do is you take one thing, like for example, I have my headphones in front of me, or you can take a simple pen or something like that, and you place it in front of yourself, and you're trying to focus on two things: on your breathing. When you notice your breath, you notice the oxygen that's coming into your lungs, and then you notice your exhale. And simultaneously you're focusing on this object in front of you, two things at once. Basically what this does is it helps you take your mind off other things, like for example the news flow or challenging statistics that we're looking at right now. So you're focusing on just the present moment and just those two things. One more technique I'm going to share with you comes from cognitive behavioral psychology. And the way cognitive behavioral psychologists look at fears and anxiety is that you need to be very specific. You need to identify specific fears that you have. For example, saying things like, I'm afraid of coronavirus is not really specific, but when you are talking about things like, I'm afraid that I will die, or I'm afraid that my close ones will die, or maybe you're struggling financially, right, and you're experiencing fears from that standpoint, like I'm afraid to lose my job, or I'm afraid that I won't be able to make ends meet or pay rent or things like that. So you write those fears, and then it's really important to divide things that you can have control over versus things that you cannot have control over. For example, if it comes to being sick and getting sick from the coronavirus, what you can do is you can educate yourself, you can practice social distancing, you can stay self-quarantined and stay at home. When you go out to get groceries, you can wear a mask, or at least, if you can get groceries delivered. If you're worried about your close ones and their health, then maybe you can get deliveries for them and things like that. However, what you cannot keep under control is how our governments are reacting to that, or how fast it's spreading and things like that, or how fast vaccine will be developed. So this is a different pile of things that you cannot keep your control over. And when one of those things comes into your head, you do one of the previous techniques that I shared, versus when one of the, when you think about those fears, you just focus on the things that you can control and where you can educate yourself about them. The last technique I'm going to share with you comes from body psychotherapy, which is a line of therapy that looks at our mind and body connection and how our feelings, our emotions manifest themselves in our body, and for example, things like psychosomatic diseases and things like that. It would take about 5 minutes of your time, and it's really, really grounding, and it helps me feel so much more peaceful. What you do is you put your feet a little wider than your shoulders. You really need to find that point that is more comfortable for you, because some people feel more comfortable and more grounded with their feet spread a little bit wider, and some the opposite. So just find that comfortable zone for you. Then you close your eyes and you place your focus of attention into the soles of your feet. You kind of scratch the you use your feet to just scratch the floor or the ground whenever you are, and just take several inhales through the soles of your feet and back out, if it makes sense, right? You just picture it as if energy comes into you through your feet and back. That already makes you feel much more grounded. And then the second part of this exercise is you picture your hara, which is the term that comes from martial arts and Eastern cultures. This is our body center. It's located 1 inch or like 2 fingers under your belly button and an inch into your body. And you picture that circle of light. And then what you do, the third part is, again, behind your closed eyes, you inhale energy through the right sole, through the right foot, all the way up through your right leg and into your hara. You keep it there, you just picture that light there, you hold it there for a couple of seconds, and then you exhale back through the left leg all the way to the left foot, and then you close the triangle by picturing that light going from your left foot to your right foot. And you continue this exercise multiple times as long as you're comfortable with that. I would say 5-10 minutes is great. I'm actually very curious to see if you agree with me, because this is really one of the most grounding exercises that I've done in my life. Other than that, the only things that I can recommend is just trying to slow down, finding space for yourself, which I know can be really challenging, especially if you're a parent. Get exercise if you can. There's plenty of yoga sessions available online right now if you can't go outside and run, for example. Get enough sleep. That's really important for our emotional and physical well-being. If you have a baby, sleep during their naps. And just find what works for you. Find things in your everyday life that really keep you happy and make you happy. For example, it can be little rituals. Like for me, I really love that my husband makes me this cup of coffee in the morning, and it has some cardamom in it, and it's a ritual for me, right? It's a very special smell. It really helps me stay grounded and positive, and it sets the mood for the day for me. Or doing just 15 minutes of yoga exercises in the morning. Or it could be something different for you. Maybe a bath, or maybe you like to draw or to paint, or doing things like that. Even if you do 15 minutes for yourself, doing things that you really love to do, that helps you through this day, and it helps you feel so much more positive and upbeat about it. And if you haven't started yet, maybe think about meditating. That's another thing that is absolutely unbelievably helpful. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope that you find this video helpful. Thanks.